Alrighty, we will let others join as well. So thank you all so much for joining today. We're really glad to have you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day and your lunch hour to meet with us. We're very excited to meet with you guys. My name is Mackenzie Totsky, and I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager with Talent Launch. So as some of you may know, Talent Launch is a shared services network of staffing and recruiting companies. We have 10 staffing and recruiting companies within the network, and we are going to be sharing a little bit more on that today. We have three phenomenal speakers from our company at Talent Launch that are going to be joining today. So I'm really excited for you guys to meet them as well and just learn more about our culture. So some objectives that we're hoping you guys take away from today's call. We have three of them in mind. One of them is that you potentially might want to join the staffing and recruiting industry after our call. So a lot of us absolutely love it. We've been in the recruiting and staffing industry for some time now, and we've just really enjoyed it. It's very engaging and challenging. And so we're going to hit on some of those highlights today. The next reason you might stay on and get some cool outcomes from our call today would be we are going to share some tips and best practices on what makes great salespeople and recruiters, specifically within our network. So we have some top performers in the Talent Launch Network that were awesome enough to join us today, and they're going to share with you guys what made them stand out. So hopefully you really learn from them. And then the last piece is for you guys to check out Talent Launch. We really want to talk to you about who we are, our culture, and also talk to you about how we can, or how you potentially could grow and advance in our network here. So with that said, if you guys wouldn't mind today throwing into the chat box, which you'll see at the bottom, you could put your name, your current title, and what you might be looking to get out of this call. That would be great. And then the next piece is any questions that you have. So at the end of today's call, probably around 12:20, we are going to open up for a Q&A. So if you have questions you would like for us to hit on, go ahead and throw those in for that chat box today. The last little item I'd like to ask is that just so that we can hear everybody correctly, if you're not presenting at the time, please keep your audio on mute for us. That'd be fantastic. So with that said, the breakdown is first we are going to have our awesome president, Doug Dandurand, talk to you guys about staffing and recruiting and what has kept him engaged over the years in this industry. Then we are going to talk to Sara Drake. She is our business development manager for Alliance Industrial Solutions, which is actually one of our branch companies. And then lastly, we are going to have Dave Marquez, and he's really going to talk about the recruiting side of the business and what's made him successful, and he has a lot to share with you also. Each of these guys are going to talk to you about successes, even mistakes that they've made, and what they've learned. I love this part. It's my favorite. I learn a lot from it every time. And then, like I said, we'll talk about Talent Launch and then open it up for Q&A. So enough of that. I would love to introduce Doug Dandurand, our president. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, thanks, Mackenzie, and absolutely, thrilled to be joining you guys today, and excited to have Sara Drake, who's our #1 salesperson in the network last year, as well as David Marquez, our #1 recruiter in the network last year. So good crowd of people to have with us. So I think if we go to the next slide real quick, this is my profile. I think Mackenzie put this on there just to show how old I am. I appreciate that. But I have been in the business now for a little over 25 years. And so I've had a wide variety of experiences. I started off in sales. I've been in recruiting. I've been in leadership positions, and with a lot of different companies, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of economic changes over the years. So I've seen a lot, but I'm definitely excited to talk about what I think is going on in our industry now. So the first question that I had given to me was this: what's the importance of recruiting in sales in business today? And really, we play a vital role in helping people find that right opportunity and helping companies find the right people. So let's start with the candidate perspective, which is really your perspective right now. So whether you're entering the job market for the first time or making some kind of career change, how do you find that right opportunity for you? You try it on your own, or do you have a trusted advisor to help guide you through this process? Well, that's where we come in. We're the expert at understanding what's important to our candidates. What companies match this, the thing that's important to them. And by the way, which companies are also hiring. It's what we do all day, every day. So without a company like us to help you, you're kind of left to try to find that information on your own. Why wouldn't you use an expert to help you rather than maybe luck into it? On the flip side, how does the company find the right candidate? Well, think about how most companies have, an individual or maybe a team of people that are responsible for finding the best people to join their company. Most of these individuals have other duties as well within their organization, and really finding people may not be their primary skill set and probably takes way too much time. So again, this is where we come in. Our salespeople have that expertise to discover what's really important to that company beyond just the skills needed. We are industry specific. We focus, whether it's manufacturing, a lot of industrial, healthcare, IT, accounting, legal, all kinds of different specialties that our individual companies focus on. So we're able to be a trusted advisor to them, which includes sorting through all the candidates that don't really match their expectations, which prevents them from wasting time with non-qualified candidates. So why did I choose recruiting and sales? Honestly, it was by accident. I don't know anybody that's ever gone to school to go into staffing. Most of us find it a different way. I know for me, I went to college to go into banking. I thought that was going to be my career. And my first job out of college, I hated it. Drove by a staffing company every day. And 2 weeks later, I was a salesperson for them. And now 25 years later, why am I still doing this? And for me, it's because this is a relationship business. More than anything that I've seen, relationships are key. If you think about, again, from the client perspective, they do business with people they like. So I love that opportunity to build new relationships, to earn their trust, and really provide them advice to help them as well as their company perform better. Same for the candidate side. Again, building that relationship and helping that candidate navigate the hiring process and ultimately finding a rewarding opportunity is very fulfilling for me personally. But the industry, it is challenging, right? And the comment here, why is it challenging yet rewarding? Well, the challenge, number one, we're in a very unique time in our country. There are 1 million more jobs available than people actually looking for work. That's crazy. I have never seen that, right? Number two, there's a lot of competition for good clients and good candidates. Staffing is a very competitive industry. You have to know that going into it. And number three, the work dynamic has changed significantly over just the last 18 months. The idea of remote work or hybrid schedules are becoming more of the norm instead of a rarity. But it creates an issue for those companies that need employees on site. Think of a manufacturing company where they got to build things. You can't do that remotely. Or a hospital, you got to care for patients in person. So, this hybrid or remote work environment creates problems for some of our clients. Some companies just prefer to have their teams on, at their location for camaraderie or synergy or training, whatever. So it is more difficult now. But recent studies show 55% of all job applicants want to work remotely. That's just going to make this gap of companies that want people there and people that don't want to be there even bigger. So that's going to be one of the challenges. So why do we do it? Well, number one, success is easy to measure, and because we're putting people to work, and can be very financially rewarding. It's an opportunity to not only get paid fairly to do our job, but if you're successful, you can make a lot of money doing this. Number two, your efforts result in a client finding that right person, which ultimately helps that company achieve their desired outcomes. And number three, your efforts result in someone finding that right opportunity for them. And this can be professionally fulfilling to that individual, but it also might help them put food on their table or pay their bills or provide them with the dignity of meaningful work. And McKinsey, for me, just doesn't get any better than that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Doug. That was great. Really touches on how we impact people and how you can really build out your success in this industry. So thanks again for your insights. We really appreciate you. Next, we are going to have Sara Drake, our Business Development Manager with Alliance Industrial Solutions. Once again, that's one of our branch companies. We are so happy to hear from her. And as Doug said, she is one of our top or the top salesperson within the network in this group. And so we're so glad to have you, Sara. She's going to talk to you guys about what the traits look like of a successful salesperson. And Sara, if you could start off with just talking us a little bit about you. Who are you? What are your hobbies? What got you into this industry? Everyone's excited to hear.
Hi, so thanks Mackenzie and Doug for having me here. I really appreciate it. So I am the Business Development Manager for Alliance Industrial Solutions, and we are the operating company under the TalentLaunch umbrella that focuses on like manufacturing and logistics types of positions. So our candidates are machine operators, assemblers, pickers, packers, forklift drivers, those types of things. So me, in my personal life, I have two wonderful teenage daughters, and I've been married to my best friend for almost 20 years. And I love to bake. So that's like my new hobby that I've been doing. You know, the pandemic has challenged us all to kind of, what are we going to do while we're stuck at home all the time? So I bake and I bring goodies to everybody at the office on a pretty regular basis. So that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. All right. So you have been super successful in sales, as we have already talked about. So we want to hear, what traits do you have, Sara, that have made you so successful? And then when you look around at your peers or even your competitors in sales, those ones that shine, what are some traits that they all possess?
I think the biggest thing that I see is persistence. You cannot be afraid to hear no, and you're going to hear no a lot, a lot. And you just have to sort of change your mindset that, you know, no isn't always no, and it's more about timing. Timing is absolutely everything. So just really being super persistent and not giving up is just so important to be successful. I just as an example, I had a client just a couple months ago reach out to me 15 months after my first sales meeting with them. But in those 15 months, I'd been sending emails, interesting articles, connecting through LinkedIn, you know, phone calls, checking in, how you doing? And he finally calls and, I said, it's been 15 months. What the heck? And he said, well, I didn't need you until today. And now he's an active client of ours. So just staying top of mind by being persistent, not being afraid to just keep reaching out and just putting my name in front of him. The other thing, somebody told me a long time ago to focus like on the 3 Ps, being persistent, but being pleasant, and being able to identify the pain of our clients. So sometimes I even make a joke out of that. Like, you know, yes, I'm very persistent, but I'm always really pleasant. And it just sort of helps break the tension that we have going on. And once I've made that sort of connection and we've giggled a little bit, they're more likely to open up to me and kind of just tell me what is going on. I can put myself into their operating reality, and then we can just start to have a conversation. Almost everybody that I talk to that is in a business development role, no matter the industry, that's a lot of what I hear is don't be afraid to give up, be persistent, be nice, stay relevant, and put yourself in their operating reality. Whatever it is that they're, going through every day is different than what I'm going through every day. So being able to speak their language and understand what they need is just super important.
Excellent. Great examples. And then, this one I'm sure is relevant for probably everyone on the call, to be honest. So when we look back at recruiting 2 years ago, we were having the same challenges with recruiting, getting candidates interested, finding great clients and things like that. It was still very hard. And now here we are throughout the pandemic. It's gotten way harder. The dynamics are way different, as Doug talked about. So Sara, what are some examples you could share with us of how you've overcome these challenges in sales, or how you've done things differently that has still kept you successful?
So great question. Working through this pandemic has been a challenge for everybody. And manufacturing, it's been even more difficult. Doug was mentioning that people are really looking for that hybrid work schedule. I myself do that. I'm very fortunate and very lucky. But you can't do that in manufacturing. When you're assembling parts for cars or parts for respirators, you have to be on the line. When you are unloading the truck, you have to be there on your forklift. So it's really important to understand, this is really different, and how can I help my clients to think differently, to close that gap and get people engaged and wanting to come to work. So one of the things that's been really important I know I already talked about it a little bit, was just really making a personal connection with somebody to help me get that meeting. Because once I've had that personal connection and I start building that relationship, they're more likely to trust me and to let me become a trusted advisor for them. I recently had a meeting with somebody that it was an hour and a half long, which was like super long, in an in-person meeting, finally letting me come into their facility. And our conversation was just so great. And we ended up talking about a lot of personal things. And one of the things that she shared with me too was just how important the staffing and recruiting piece was to her. She was an HR person. I'm in business development, but we still really, at the heart of our jobs, people is the most important thing. And through our conversation, kind of understanding why that's both important to both of us. So when I got home, I was just kind of thinking about it. And there was a book that had been recommended to me, and I sent her the book. And we've since, communicated about it and what we've both learned from that and what we liked about it, and what we didn't. And she has since also referred me to other clients, which has been, really great. The other thing about working through the pandemic is being super prepared for any meeting. And you would do this before anyway, but it's even more important now, especially because a lot of our meetings are virtual. So it's a little bit more challenging to kind of read the room, if you will, and kind of judge what it's like with your audience when you're just getting, obviously, just our faces here on the screen. So I'm doing a lot more research before I go to a company or a prospective client. I'm looking through their LinkedIn. I'm finding them on other social media, going through their website and really scouring any articles and achievements that they've put on their website. I'm going through local news sources to see what they have going on in the community, trying to figure out what their culture is like, and then being able to articulate those things when I'm having conversations with people. It really shows that I'm invested and that I'm interested in what they have going on. And once I do that, once I understand their operating reality, I've made that personal connection, I'm then able to offer more creative solutions to their labor shortages. So what does that sort of look like? Do we have to raise their pay rates? Do we have to adjust their shifts to allow for, now their kids are homeschooling? What sort of bonuses and retention can we give? And how do we sort of creatively come up with a solution together to help them understand that times have changed? The pandemic has changed how I do my job and how they need to do their job. So the more that they trust me, the more personally we are connected, the more likely they are to listen to what I have to say.
Great. Do you have an example, and you don't have to use names or anything, but of a time where you met with a client and you were able to work through a creative solution, or it was just kind of a unique situation?
So I would say the client that I met with, that I shared that book with, they were really, really struggling with getting people in the door. It's a major distribution center, and people don't want to go to work. And I just kind of had to talk to her about raising their pay rates for people that are coming in. The other companies in their industrial park were paying significantly more. And there was a real challenge of, if you bring the raised pay rates up to people that are walking in the door, how do you compensate and raise pay rates for the people that are already there, that have been there 5 years and aren't making that much money? So just being able to have like kind of those types of really challenging conversations. And they were able to kind of come up with a solution, raising pay rates, kind of creatively packaging that to everybody. And we've been able to sort of close that gap in their retention, increasing their turnover, and just getting more people in the door.
Awesome example, and the outcomes too. So specifically in rewards, in recruiting, sometimes we'll talk to people about sales and they're like, I'm not sure about a sales career. I'm not sure if that's right for me. Especially in recruiting, I don't know if I should even switch from maybe a strictly sales role to get into the recruiting industry, et cetera. So do you have some examples of what rewards have looked like for you? What has been successful for you? And if you could provide some examples.
Sure. So for me personally, a rewarding sales career is identifying and defining what does good look like. So if I know that, it's much easier to sort of achieve what am I after. I know what I'm hoping to achieve. I've made sure that what I have in mind aligns with our company and what they want me to achieve, what their expectations are. I meet weekly with my boss, who's the president of Alliance Industrial Solutions, David Bishop. He is my biggest supporter. We talk every week to make sure that we're both aligned. What does he expect from me? He holds me accountable when I need it. He's there for me to lean on and offer solutions and just kind of guide me in the right direction. So I think that that's the first part of it is, just knowing where you need to go. And then I also try to remember that for every person that we put out to work, there's this super ripple effect where it possibly is affecting another 4 or 5 people in their life. Essentially, if you put somebody to work, now they can pay their rent, they can put food on the table, they can fix their car that's broken down, they can put gas in their car. It's like we have worked with a client to improve the working conditions at their facility, get more people into work, and then in turn, those people have found a way to make it happen, to have success in their own life. And then lastly, just with TalentLaunch in particularly, without being too much, but this company has really been financially successful for me. They really appreciate the work that we do, and I'm rewarded very generously. There's so much appreciation. The compensation is incredibly fair, and there's all sorts of internal perks and benefits and things where they're just, they just really treat us very well. And I'm feeling very fortunate and lucky to work for this company.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think just going off of that, I believe in your profile prior you were in retail and then you came over into sales. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did,
totally different.
Yeah. How was that transition? Like for someone else who might do the same thing, like what are some tips you have for them?
Sure. So it's so different. And I don't ever want to speak bad about anything that I did in my past, because everything that I did before helped me to where I'm at now. But there's just such a better work-life balance. For starters, that's kind of the biggest thing. And one of the things that really just sort of, the light bulb went off was David and I were talking about leadership. And we did this whole course and this whole book, chapter by chapter, different types of leaders and what does that look like and how can I apply that to my job here. It was really different because in my past life, I had a team of people that reported to me, and I don't have that here now. So it's like, well, what does this even matter? And it does matter. And, I learned that before, like my leadership training was really just management training. And now even though I don't have anybody that reports directly to me, this leadership training that I've had is so important in terms of being able to influence people and being able to kind of help people see what I'm trying to talk about and getting them to, to understand what I'm saying comes from a good place and helps to achieve results of what they're looking for.
Awesome. What's the book called? Do you know?
I will find it and put it in the chat. It was like 13 Laws of Leadership or something. Maybe Doug knows which book I'm talking about.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Sara. We appreciate you. And next we are going to have Dave Marquez. He is going to talk to you guys about the recruiting side of the business and what has made him so successful in recruiting and how he has acted as a trusted advisor to candidates. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you very much, Mackenzie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, first off, my name is David Marquez. I've been with the Alliance and TalentLaunch Network here for the past 6 years. I've been in the recruitment field for, almost 14 years at this point. Personally, from Cincinnati, born and raised, came to John Carroll University here in Cleveland. I've been here ever since. I hit that 20-year mark. So the majority of my life, I've been here in the area. My girlfriend and I, Sara, we've got a 1-year-old son, just turned 1 on Tuesday. So that's been a blast and interesting, certainly, living the pandemic life as much of us and all of us really have. That's kind of me. Again, thank you, Mackenzie, for having me, and certainly everybody for joining today. Really what I wanted to cover, as Mackenzie had mentioned, is, just really the recruitment side, and really how to stand out. Honestly, there are tens of thousands of recruitment firms out there, and every company that we're working with, they're hearing from 10 of them a day. So you got to make sure to keep that in mind. So again, being able to stand out in that crowd is very important. Alongside of that, actual candidates hearing from them as well. So why did I choose recruiting? And as Doug had mentioned earlier, I I didn't choose the recruiting game. The recruiting game chose me. I think what many people find out as you get into this industry is everybody has the same story. I graduated from college. I didn't know, I had a job, short stint, 6 months with the company. I hated it. I left the organization without a plan. A friend of mine referred me to one of their friends. I came down and interviewed with the company called CBC here in Cleveland, which is a regional recruitment firm. I was like, oh yeah, great. These guys are going to help me find a job. And the next day they call me and say, we want you to work here. And to me, you never even knew about the industry in general, just because you figure, don't HR departments do this? Don't companies have success hiring their own people? How does that work? But then you really find out that, the recruitment field and staffing is a top 5 industry in the world. So yeah, a lot of promise in it if anybody is certainly feeling like, this is a route for them to go, or obviously if you're already in this world and in recruiting as we speak, it's very promising. So when it comes to the recruitment side, how can you really excel in that area? I think first and foremost, it's about being a trusted advisor. And what exactly does that mean? So, you have to recognize that though on this side of the desk, depending on what area of recruitment you're working, whether it's staffing or direct hire and professional, you may be spending 20 minutes, 2 hours, 2 weeks, or 2 months in this person's journey when it comes to getting them in their next opportunity. But really what it is, it's most important to that individual that you're working with, because this is their life, their significant other's life, their children's lives. And it's their overall livelihood that you are affecting. So making sure that you're putting these folks in the proper position to be successful, and really just being a guide, being somebody that they can talk to, vent to, especially when it comes to their work scenario, their work situation, and giving them honest and real advice. I've always said this too. It's about being a real person to these folks. You're not reading from a script. You're not robotic. You're being real and you're being transparent. Good, bad, or ugly. Doesn't matter what it is. You just want to make sure that you're providing accurate information and giving them the best, info for them to make the best decision for their lives. And if the opportunity we bring to them is right, great. If it's not, that's okay too. It's always going to come back in the end, whether you did the right thing or not. So it's important that you push people in the right direction, you pull them away from a certain situation. And again, just being somebody that they can lean on and trust. And a lot of how you're going to get to that really is active listening. So I think it's very important that you're really keying in on what is important to these folks who you're dealing with. Why they're looking to make a change, what's really going to benefit their life and moving on to that next opportunity, what they're looking for in that next position. Maybe they want to change gears or whatever the case is. But good example, I'm actually working on this offer, right now with one of my colleagues, Sara Drake, and it's been a lot of back and forth, and the candidate wants an extra $5,000 in their salary, and you're thinking, what's the difference? When you really break that down in the minutia of it all, it's probably $50 a paycheck every 26 weeks. But to be honest, there's certain personal things that he has going on that are going to be affected with or without that $5,000. So this is really just going to help. Not to get too in depth on it, but there's an immigration issue with his wife and his child. He'll be the only provider for them for the first 2 years of this new opportunity that he takes on. It is a brand new department that he's going to be starting up, so there are going to be long hours involved. So it's all about understanding their situation. At first, all I heard was this gentleman lives in Cincinnati. His family's in St. Louis. His parents are in St. Louis. His family, like I said, is out of the country. But he wants to get to St. Louis, wants to get to St. Louis, wants to get to St. Louis. What does $5,000 matter? And then you dig in more and you find out, hey, these things are important. So you fight for that person, right? So just an example of something that can really help you not only win what you're trying to accomplish, but, again, how you're standing out and really, a part of this person's success story. And then I really think it's all about speed. And what that means is, you're working on two sides of the desk here, right? You've got your clients and then you got your candidates. So, you have to be reliable to both of them on the recruitment side, and speed and accountability, holding yourself accountable to not only your clients, your candidates, but also your peers here in the office. Just a good example, Mike Gurney, my boss, tremendous boss, you want to run through a brick wall for him, but basically, one of his top clients, reached out to him and said, hey, I need this person yesterday, as they always do. But it was a real serious situation. And he needed an HR manager for a client of his in very rural Tennessee. So, it's 4:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and I'm just like, okay, I got it, Mike. And I, got the position posted, 3 different sites, did my outreach via, all the channels that we make accessible to folks within our network. Talked to 2 candidates that night, 3 the next morning, 3 submitted candidates later that afternoon. So within a 24-hour time period, this client company was already, floored by the quick attention and what we were able to do. I was at the office till 11:30 that night, and that's okay. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make it happen here. But then in moving forward, within a week, they had hired one of our prospects, and she's been going gangbusters there the past 3 years. So timing, as Sara had mentioned earlier, can be everything. Earning that commission or placing that person or whatever, you gotta be on it. You got to be on it and act fast. And then really, again, to kind of look at things and how you can take it to the next level and not just be, standing out as a recruiter, but how can you be a great recruiter? And the way I look at it is you're really focusing on that candidate experience, as I described about the prospect before, and, moving from St. Louis to Cincinnati and fighting for them and all that. But, sometimes it's a lot of the little things and the daily activities. The being responsive to their texts, their calls, their emails, actually not being responsive, being proactive and reaching out to them when you get an update. You will find that candidates, companies, they'll tell you their horror stories about the other recruitment firms that they work with. And it's very consistent. This person interviewed me, I haven't heard from them in a year. This company, or this recruiter got in touch with me, sent me on the interview, and they ghosted me. I haven't heard anything in 4 months. You will hear that very consistently. So I pride myself on, or at least like to think I do a pretty good job of this, is being proactive and connecting with them, and again, telling them the good news, the bad news, hey, they're moving forward with another candidate, or being transparent through the process. Hey, great news. Company wants to move forward with you, but there are 2 other candidates in competition for this role. This is how you can beat them. You're teaming with them. This is your teammate. You're their agent. You're really being again, that trusted advisor, kind of going back to that. But, really just being somebody that is, again, a source of information so they know where they stand no matter what. And I can give you, kind of a different example and kind of how it's transitioned for me in my world. But if you think about it with staffing, being that trusted advisor and having a great candidate experience, you're placing 10 people out at a client site. Those are your biggest advocates within an organization. They're going to say, oh, hey, Sarah Pervo did me right, or, Sara Drake did me right, whatever the case is. And then that company is going to want to work with you even that much more, giving you more of the client share, or 10 more jobs to fill, whatever it is. But then when it comes to me, the direct hire side, again, working both ends of the desk. Good example, at a friend of mine referred this candidate to me. He was working at Texas Hydraulics. His name was Kevin Abbott. He was a manufacturing engineer. He wanted to get out of there. The company was going downhill. Then they were bought, and then he was actually promoted into a manufacturing engineering manager role. So things were all good. And then he left, and he went to a company called Connor Industries, which is down in Fort Worth. So basically, Fort Worth, Texas. So basically, nothing ever happened. I didn't do anything for him on that candidate side of the desk. But he was then the engineering director at Connor Industries. And he remembered, just because, again, talk to him like you would talk to anybody at a bar, at dinner, friends, family, whatever it is. And then, he called me when he's now the engineering director and says, "Hey, Dave, I have this need. Do you do this?" I'm like, "Yep, no problem." Filled that job, was introduced to the CEO. Now we're retained by that client. Filled several high-level operations positions with them. So again, you never know what it's going to be. You could interview somebody tomorrow and place them in 2 weeks, or you could interview them Wednesday of next week and they're a client for you 4 years down the road. So that's what it's all about. You're dealing with people. Your product is people. You're consistently just back and forth on both sides. So it's very important, that you are just, again, I put it pretty plainly, just being real, being yourself, and talking to them like a real person. And then one thing that I've really been introduced to here at Alliance, and our marketing team and Mackenzie, do a great job with this, is utilizing, social media. I'm not very good at that. I'm not good at the computers, but LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever the other ones are, Instagram. You might need to lean on our team internally that can do this stuff for you because they're amazing at it. But then, leveraging all the other resources we have, Indeed, Handshake, Monster. We've got a new program, Sense, that we've been working with a couple of years now. So everybody nowadays is on their phones, on social media. This might be the best way to reach them.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. And great examples, especially with the HR manager. And then when you worked with that engineering director to work, build that partnership. So thanks so much for sharing. All right, next slide. All right, so we are coming up. We have about 10 minutes with the call before Q&A. So this is my favorite part. These guys have already shared a few, but they've got great stories that are great teaching moments for us, whether it's a success story or a mistake that they've made and what they learned from it. So I hope you guys take some stuff away from this. But if each of you wouldn't mind sharing one story, whether it was a mistake or a success story, that would be fantastic. So Doug, if you could go next, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm going to go with mistake, because there's a lot more of those, I think, than successes, it feels like. But the one that always stands out, and this was a long time ago, but I was it was my first recruiting job, and it was with an IT staffing company. I didn't have an IT background, but I'm thinking, I'm a smart guy. I got this covered. No big deal. So it was my very first interview, and I'm sitting down with somebody, and their title was something in the web space, and sitting down. So I got my paper. I'm ready to take notes, and I'm serious. I know what I'm doing. I asked about tell me about your role. And she goes, well, I'm responsible, for the GUI portion. And so I wrote down GOOEY, and she looked at me and said, no, that's GUI, graphic user interface. And so I'm 5 minutes into my new career, and I'm like, I busted. I don't, so I immediately just said, I don't know anything about what you do, nothing. And so the lesson was a couple things, right? One is, don't fake it, right? You're talking to people, whether you're talking to a candidate or a client, they know their stuff, their role better than you, right? Don't fake it. If you don't know, you don't know. And number two, what I learned on this particular situation was, even after I'd been there for a while, and I did really understand the functionality of the different software or the different roles that we were recruiting for, it was a much better interview when I said, hey, tell me about what you do. I don't, as if I don't understand it, because they love telling you about their role. They love telling you how they do things. And so I ended up building a better relationship, getting more information, and understanding what was important to them by just asking, tell me, instead of trying to fake it. And so that was a mistake that has served me well throughout my career.
Great example. Thanks so much. Next, if we could have Dave.
Yeah. I think it's my story is probably going to tie in a little bit to, kind of what I had discussed, but I think it's very important. And yeah, I'll definitely lead out with a mistake. When I joined the recruitment field, again, the company I was working for was a downtown Cleveland regional search firm. Started in 1968, the first regional search firm in Northeast Ohio. Very old school mentality, very cutthroat, very salesy. And that's just not, necessarily how I operate. So basically I'm trying to be that person, right? So that was my biggest mistake, is I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being real. I was being more robotic, and, it actually took a toll on me and kind of changed, a little bit of how I operated as a person. And I didn't like that. So, I guess in flipping that, the major success coming from that was that, a few years down the road, I said, you know what? I know what I'm doing now, at least, but I'm going to put my own flavor into it. I'm going to be my own person. I'm going to be me and put my own spin on things. Just try to, again, be real with people. And that was my first year making six figures. And it's just all about, again, that candidate experience. So my mistake was not being me, and my success was taking myself out of that situation and being, what I thought was right, and it worked out.
Awesome. And it clearly led to more success by being yourself. So even better. Great. All right. And next, Sara.
Okay. So I'll kind of end this storytelling on a little bit of a lighter note, a little bit of funny story. So I'm at a client's visit, and one of the things that I always do before I leave is sort of set the expectation. I'm working with a new client. Sometimes it takes a few kind of weeks or days or whatever to really get in the rhythm and understand their culture and what they're looking for in a good candidate. So as we're leaving the meeting, I said, I'm trying to kind of be silly about it. And I said, well, you don't get married on the first date, but we'll definitely get to first base with you. And everybody in the room is just looking at me like, what did you just say? And I was 10 shades of red, completely embarrassed. And it took me a minute. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all laughing and we're all giggling. And my follow-up email that I did, I kind of made another little joke about it. And they've been a client now for over a year. And I'm sure they would still laugh about it because it really was an epic sort of professional mistake. But it was just fun and just holding myself accountable to like, oops, you really put your foot in your mouth, Sara, like watch what you're saying. I don't use that analogy anymore, by the way, because I don't want to make that mistake again.
I think you should use that analogy from here on out, Sara, to be honest with you. It's gained you a client for a year, and who knows how much better you can do it.
You can have it, Dave. You use it next time.
Deal. Mine now.
That is awesome. I love that story. I'll never forget it. So, all right, good. Well, we'll take the next couple minutes here. I would love for Doug to share a little bit about Talent Launch, who we are and our culture, and then we'll talk about career paths, and then we'll leave the last 10 minutes for you guys to tell us what questions you have for us.
Awesome. Thanks very much. So just, real quick on this slide, this obviously who we are. We're a nationwide network of independently operated staffing companies. And as McKinsey mentioned in the opening, we currently have 10 companies. We've got 2 on the West Coast. We've got 2 on the East Coast and 1 in Chicago. We've got obviously 4 in the Cleveland area. So we're all over the place. Our value proposition, right, is, David had mentioned before, there's tens of thousands of staffing companies. There's over 22,000 of them, but 99% of them are less than 50 million in revenue. So you've got the the big mammoth, national global players, and then a whole bunch of smaller ones. And so we acquire companies that are in that smaller space, and we keep their identity, keep doing what they, keep doing their type of staffing, but we bring in technology and a tech stack that is better or as good as the national and the international companies. So we give that technology to smaller companies, and we think that's one of the advantages that we get in helping them achieve that next level of success. That's who we are as a network. We are grounded by our values, by what we call the redwood tree. And there's a whole story on the redwood tree that I won't get into today, but it is extremely important for us that our culture, the purpose, the power of potential, and really you take that out further, it's the power of potential in people. We really believe that everything we do is about helping someone be the best version of themselves, whether that's a client, whether it's a candidate, or whether that's each other. And we accomplish that through our redwood tree culture. And one of the things I will say upfront and honest, if the values that we talk about here or on a daily basis don't necessarily align, you're not going to like it here. This is who we are. It's our way of life. It's how we function. Really quickly, if you just look at the values, make it happen. Determination drives results. Entrepreneurship, take responsibility for your outcomes. Teamwork, use leverage others to help you reach your goals. Relationships, be a giver, not a taker. Integrity, choose courage over comfort. Communication is about painting pictures to create alignment, and sense of urgency. Great outcomes achieved quickly. And I will tell you, for myself, these values make my job super easy. Every decision I make, I'm able to look right there at those values, and it tells me exactly what to do. We lean on things like choosing courage over comfort. Being able to face a tough situation head on. That's who we are as an organization. We don't mince words. We're going to have that courage to say, here's what's really happening to the client, to the candidate, to each other. So it really is a passionate way of life for us, and everybody really embodies it. And even, I won't go into the pillars, but that, even the competition, to have a passion for winning, it comes in a lot of different forms. You have two people on this call today that have been very, very successful winners for us, but they have a passion for it, right? What drives them may be different, but they have a passion for winning, which might be a passion for helping others. It might be a passion for career success, but it's all related to that power of potential. That's our values. We support that through, like I said, our shared services. So again, on this next slide, we talk about what makes us unique. And so we've got best-in-class technology, but we also have a shared services operation that is supporting the operating companies, that is facilitating their growth and helping them. And it's all founded on delivering our from the shared services perspective. They've got two sets of clients. They've got the operating companies as well as our actual clients where we put people to work. So it's all about delivering incredible customer service and innovation. That is what we are focused on at the shared services level, and it's a very unique approach in our industry in how we support these independently operated companies.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug, so much. Just real quick, I wanted to touch on career paths and how to apply and even grow your career at TalentLaunch. So there's so many different ways within the network you can grow or get involved. Honestly, sometimes you can pave your own path as well. So especially with the growth that we're going through right now, you could come in at more of a functional level, like an accountant or a recruiter. You could move up into a manager or director. That's going to be more of your traditional path. Amanda Mitchell's on our call today. She's one of our internal recruiters. She's done a fantastic job. She's actually worked for several departments and one of our staffing companies, Bonnie. And now she's on our internal talent team with TalentLaunch. So pretty cool success story there. We also have Kayla Zorko in our network, and she started in the McIntyre branch for us in staffing and recruiting. and more recently moved into development and communication. So she does a lot of teaching, LinkedIn sessions, how to be a better recruiter and salesperson, which is also a pretty cool part of our network too. And then you can also create your own. So let's say you come in as a recruiter, you could eventually move into what Sara does as a business development manager. You could even move into a practice leader or potentially a partner like Dave Marquez. So there's a lot you can do there. And then if you do want to help us expand and grow, that would be moving into more of a branch manager or even a market manager. Next slide, please. And then how to apply. It's very easy. Just go to mytalentlaunch.com, select join our team, and then search open jobs. Process is smooth. All you have to do is apply. And then with your resume, background, and skills, we'll take a look at that. If it seems to match the job well, we would set up a 15 to 20-minute phone conversation with you. Going forward from there, we send 2 quick predictive index assessments. There is a behavioral and a cognitive component. And then we have 1 to 3 interview steps. Typically, that's a blend between a video and in-person interview. And usually we do a job shadow depending on the position. Within 1 to 2 weeks after that, we would reach out to you and let you know if you got the position or not. Either way, we would love to connect with you. Myself, Amanda Mitchell on this call, Ann Davis is on this call. We're on the internal talent acquisition team. So if you even want to message us or connect with us on LinkedIn, we'd love to have a career conversation with you and see how we can help you. So with that said, let's jump right into Q&A. I know we have a list of questions here, so we will get through those as quickly as we can. And I'm just going to shoot those over to certain people that I think that might align with. So our first question is, what was the biggest adjustment when you entered the staffing industry? Sara, would you mind helping us with that one?
So the biggest adjustment, that's a difficult one. So before, when I was working in retail, one of the things that I loved the most about my job was when we were hiring and developing and coaching people and watching them kind of move into their next roles. I get to do that all the time, so it was really awesome to take this one small piece of the pie of what I was doing before and to be able to do it always. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Excellent, thank you. And then Dave, talking about recruiting specifically, can you share some insights on what the day in the life looks like for a recruiter?
Sure. And again, I think that does vary per operating company. But my own personal experience, the day in the life is, understanding what your client needs, what the situation is, why that position's open and all that. But then going out into the marketplace and, yes, like I mentioned earlier, posting advertisements, seeing what type of flow is coming in from that. And every company is doing that too. So you got to be proactive as well. So that's when you're going to go do your outreach. So you're utilizing LinkedIn Recruiter, Indeed, again, your Monsters and Career Builders of the world. But it's also the effective messaging. You need to be able to create, interest, right, in the opportunity that you're building. So you're messaging them with info stating, hey, this is the relationship that we have with this client. 2, this is the, sales points, if you will, about this particular organization. They're a Fortune 500 company. They're this, that, and this. And then telling them about the, the need and the situation. And then from there, again, you're scheduling calls, you're having these conversations and hopefully, connecting with folks that make sense for that opportunity and it makes sense for them to make a transition.
Excellent. Thank you. And then Doug, you definitely touched on one of our values, accountability, and how we measure that, how in recruiting it's pretty easy to measure. So one of the questions was, I heard a lot about metrics and KPIs. How does your company approach those?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I will tell you a couple of things. There's each of the operating companies are going to have certain things based on the type of staffing they do, or the type of direct hire recruiting they do. Different metrics, but the one common denominator for everyone is, we do believe that the right activity gets the right results, and so we're pretty stringent about measuring on a weekly basis, individual and branch and company performance as a predictor of future success. And there's certain things that we look at more closely than others, but we're looking for that consistency. We're looking for ways that if someone is getting a result with less of a type of activity, what can we learn from that? How can we help others within the network be more efficient that way as well? So we don't use it as the carrot and the stick, right? We don't use it as a stick. We use it as a predictor of the health of our business, and where do we need to move the puzzle pieces to make sure that we are achieving the results that we want to achieve at a company level or an individual performance level. We've got fantastic reporting that is really, really cool and gets better every single day. The things we learn from it have been amazing. I'd love to tell more stories about that, but I'd get lost in that. So we definitely think activity is important. We think it is more of a, how can we help you achieve your outcomes that are important to you, not as a, you're not doing enough of something.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Let's go with Dave. If you could help us with, what is your favorite part of the job and company? And then what is the biggest struggle?
Favorite part of the job, I'd say it's the variety. The day-to-day is never going to be the same. You're going to be challenged with different situations, different issues that you have to overcome to, again, get to that goal of placing someone or again, in the staffing world, filling a complete job slate and getting 15 people on site the next day type stuff. So it's never easy. It's very fast paced. You're never going to be bored. When it comes to what do I like most about the company, it sounds cliche. It is the people. I work with a tremendous team. All the other different operating companies, everybody's awesome. Everybody's super close. The bigger we get, the tougher it is to be as close as we want. But it is. It's just a tremendous culture, and everybody has a very similar mindset to, not only be financially successful, but help these folks out and get them to work and better their situations. What's the challenge? Helping these folks out and putting them in better situations, because you're battling people and their own mindsets in many cases too. You're selling to people, so there's ever-changing mindsets, outside factors that you can't help, market conditions, significant others, tragedies, things happen. So when you're trying to fill a need for a client company or whatever, things are ever changing. That's the biggest challenge.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. And I know we're up for time, but just one more question I was going to throw out there for Doug. If you could just tell us, this is a harder question, but if you could tell us what the next 5 years might look like in staffing and recruiting, or even some of the trends you're seeing as you talk to others in the industry, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, it's thanks for that one. I appreciate it. I'm kidding. No, it's interesting, right? Dave just kind of mentioned that it's ever changing, but that's actually to our advantage. The concentration of the use of temporaries in companies is growing every single year. So more and more of the working population are working in temporary. We're seeing all-time highs on the direct hire side. So the need for temporary companies and direct hire companies is increasing. The big push we always get is, with automation and artificial intelligence, that's going to take away the need for our jobs. And it's not at all, because first of all, that stuff exists today, and our industry is growing and growing and growing. Number one. Number two, there is always going to be that relationship element that we started this whole conversation off with, that is going to be the difference between success and not success. So there has to be some human element involved in taking that list of candidates, finalists, or working with that client on how to make that decision. So our industry, we believe, will continue to flourish. We think technology actually helps us be more efficient and faster for our clients. Government regulations can really swing us kind of back and forth. But at the end, their intention is never to eliminate our industry. It's always how can we work within those regulations. So I think the next 5 years, the glide path is actually accelerating. Don't ask me beyond 5, but for the next 5, we're good.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone again, all of our participants for joining. That was fantastic. Our guest speakers, you guys did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much. If there's any way you guys could connect with us, you want to learn more about Talent Launch, you want to talk about a career conversation with us or get involved, reach out anytime. We are so glad we got to connect with you today. I did want to throw out one little thing. Next week with Engage Cleveland, they are actually putting on a Young Professionals Week, and it looks like so much fun. They're going to be doing candle making, behind the scenes with the Browns, axe throwing, lots of fantastic events, and we have employees that are joining, so you definitely should go engage in that. And then lastly, there is an engagement civic affair on the 22nd, and that's in the evening. We will be there too. Sarah's going to be there, and we'll be representing Talent Launch. It's a great way for young professionals to network and meet with employers, so definitely check that out. And thank you guys so much for your time. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you.